everyone. So today I will be teaching you how to make the 3 bases for your project. You can choose any 3 of them. What you're going to need is 4 pieces of paper, some scissors, and a Sharpie. Feel free to pause and rewind the video so that you can follow along with me. To get started, I'm going to show you what's called an instant book. So to begin, you're going to fold your paper in half. Then you're going to fold one side backwards to meet the crease. And you're going to flip it over and fold this side back. When you open it, you should have 4 columns. You're going to turn your paper vertically, and you're going to fold it in half one more time. This will be your final fold for this book. When you open it up, and horizontally again, and it should look something like this. You're going to want to take a pencil and mark the corner right here and right here on your paper, and then connect the dots. An easy way to cut along this line is to fold your paper in half again and cut along the line that you drew. Make sure you only cut along the line and you don't cut all the way. Finally, you want to make sure that the middle of your paper is facing up, not down. So facing up. You're going to fold your paper in half like this. And it should create this diamond shape. You want these 2 tips of the diamond to meet each other, and then you fold around it, making sure to crease the edges. And this creates an instant book. Pretty cool. So next, I'm going to show you how to make a maze book. This is another book that is self-binding, so you don't need to bring a needle or thread. You don't need to use any of that to bind it. It's self-binding. And the first few steps of this are exactly the same as the previous book. So I'm going to go through that quickly. If you need to pause, go ahead. Fold it back. Flip it over. Fold it back again. Open it, see the columns, and vertically and fold it in half again. So far the steps have been exactly the same as the instant book, but here's where they differ. You're going to take this side and fold it back towards the crease, just like you did before. Now it's the long vertical side. Flip it over, and finally fold towards the crease once more. Should look like a long, skinny brochure. And when you open it up, you have 16 squares or a 4x4 grid. So you want to make a dot right here in the corner of the top box and make a line all the way down. So the only place that the line isn't going is for this top box. Now we're going to do that same thing, but opposite. So on the bottom is where we start the dot and go up. So the only place that the line isn't going is for this bottom box down here. And we're going to duplicate this line for the last line. So we're going to put a dot right here in the corner and go all the way down. So the only box that doesn't have the line is the top box again. And we're going to cut along these lines. All right, so once you're finished cutting along the 3 lines, it should make an M shape or a W shape if you did it upside down. And you're going to take paper and just fold where the folds want to go naturally until you get to the bottom, and you fold in the opposite direction because it wants to fold inward, but that creates a sandwich and you don't want it to fold in on itself. So you want to fold the opposite way and keep going. The one at the top wants to fold down, but then it would fold in on itself. So you fold the opposite way. It, and you've created a maze book. See, I folded it the wrong way that time. It's okay. Just look where it went wrong and fold it in the opposite direction. Perfect. Decrease it. And now everything is just as it should be. The benefit of a maze book is you can do a lot of things with its structure. See, it has these V shapes. You can glue them together to create a more traditional book shape, or you can keep them open and experiment with having content on 2 different sides of your book. So there's a lot you can do with it. Once all together, it's really tiny. So the only limitation of these books is how big your paper is. So if you have a really big piece of paper, you can make a really big maze book. Same with the instant book. The only limitation is how big your piece of paper to start with is. All right, finally, I'm going to show you how to create a pamphlet. And this is a type of book that is stitched together. You need at minimum 2 pieces of paper, but you can keep adding pieces of paper if you want a lot more pages. Remember to add 1 more piece of paper than the amount of pages you want, because this back page will turn into the cover. So you want to get your papers lined up and folded together. You don't want to fold them individually. You want to fold them all at the same time. You can use a hard object. I have a bone folder. Really get those lines nice and crisp. Now, I'm going to mark where I want to sew. I am a fan of the 3-hole sewing method. So I put a dot as near to the center as I can eyeball, and then 2 dots equally away from the edge of the book. You can measure it out with a ruler if you want, or you can eyeball it like me. You're going to want to get a large sewing needle with a large eye. Not sure if you can see, but it has a pretty large eye. And some twine or strong thread. You can even use yarn. And you want to measure 1, 2, and a half lengths of your book. Then use your scissors to cut at that point. So you should have a length of twine that's 2.5 of your book lengths. You're going to thread the needle by placing the thread through the eye pulling it through, placing the thread on the table, and then piercing the middle of the twine with your needle, and then pulling it back. It's more efficient than tying a knot, but if you're having trouble, then feel free to tie a knot at the end instead. So you're going to want to take a sharp object. You can use your pencil, for instance. I'm using a small awl. And you want to punch holes carefully on the dots that you had previously marked. Make sure that your fingers are nowhere near where the hole is being punched. And you want to take your thread and gently pull the needle through the middle hole. Go almost all the way through and keep a little tail at the end to hold on to with your thumb, because you want to make sure you're pulling tight the entire time. You're going to go back through on the top hole, pull it through, making sure to pull it tight at the end. And going all the way around and putting it through the opposite end of the book. Making sure to keep your finger on this tail and pull tight. Now, finally, you're going to go back and go through the middle hole from the back. Sometimes it may take a second. There we go. So making sure to keep this pulled tight and to pull tight this way. There we go. It's a very tightly bound book. And you're just going to knot it right in the center, making sure not to stab yourself. And if you want to, you can do the same trick of piercing the twine with your needle. It can be a bit tricky, even for me. There we go. And pulling it through for extra support on that knot. And you just cut to the desired length. Your pamphlet is bound. Remember, you can have as many pages as you want, but make sure that you leave these two back pages as extra pages, because this is where you slip on the covers, so they won't actually be part of the pages of your book. So those were 3 different methods that you can make the base of your book out of. Feel free to rewatch this video, pause it, rewind it, reference back to it. You're going to want to choose one of these 3 methods for your book unless you come to me with your own custom design and I approve it. Well, happy art making.